adopting Nairan Ramirez Esparza. She is a psychological sciences assistant professor at the University of Connecticut here. She teaches undergraduates and graduate students in courses like social psychology, the psychology of language, cultural psychology, and a graduate school statistics course. She's also an affiliate professor at El Instituto. So she is a teacher while also heavily in the research field. She is into cross-cultural psychology and social psychology. Her research interests include culture, language, and behavior. So her main question that she's seeking out is, how does culture and language influence personality, behavior, health, and development? Her methods of choice use recording devices like the Lena and the ear, and using analytical text tools. Moving forward into interesting publications that she's put out, one of them is called "Are Mexicans More or Less Sociable Than Americans? Insights from a Naturalistic Observation Study." Naturalistic observation studies are essentially looking at participants in their natural environment without manipulating anything. The aim of this publication is to find out if there's any truth to the lay theory of Mexicans being more sociable than Americans. So what she did was she used a naturalistic observation. Each participant took a self-report survey of how sociable they think they are. Now, she's using self-report surveys because sometimes self-report surveys aren't accurate in reality. Participants might perceive their social ability as higher compared to their natural observational survey. The ear was used to get the naturalistic observation of participants. The ear is a recording device, as I said earlier, and it's attached either to your arm or on your collar, and it's very small and it's not obtrusive in your daily life. As for her results, she did find that Mexicans do self-report being less sociable than Americans, but in the natural observation, they were much more sociable than Americans. Another interesting publication is titled "Cross-Cultural Constructions of Self-Schemas, Americans and Mexicans." And again, here we have an obvious cross-cultural psychology research study here. Her aim of this study is to find out what self-schemas are culture specific and which ones are cross-cultural. And by this she means, does one culture value this self-schema more than others, or is it cross-cultural, meaning multiple cultures have the same self-schemas? As for her methods, what she did was have participants write a 15-minute self-description essay. This would include participants sitting down and writing more than 75 words. If the participant did not write more than 75 words, that participant would be discarded. The method also used the MEM, which identifies frequently used content words. And a list was made, a top 40 list. The top 10 had similarities. These similarities were in self-schematic concepts of person, people, time, friends, life, and good. Americans used more words about being outgoing and sociable, while Mexicans used words relating to being nice and agreeable. Americans reflected their independent self, because America and most of Western society is an independent culture, while Mexicans reflected their interdependent self. Nairan is a great psychology professor. She's actually my principal investigator in the lab, and I do a lot of her coding for her research, which would involve a lot of language and using text analytic tools. She really explores a lot of the stereotypes and the validity of Mexican stereotypes specifically, because she was born in Mexico and lived in Mexico for a good portion of her life before coming to America. Her goal is to definitely add a lot to cultural psychology and the study of bilingualism, especially Spanish speaking, and as it pertains to Mexicans. Mexicans are the largest Latino population here in America. Also, she builds upon cultural frame switching, which is very relevant to my study here in this class, because it talks about how with bilingual people, with certain words, you switch your cultural frame and how that, and what that means to your life in that context, and how that could affect your behavior. She will continue to do a lot more in the field with her future research, and she is a great person overall.